Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, I'll be covering the whole front line, starting out in the south in the direction of Uledar, where here the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Uledar to gain better positions for themselves. Then we move on further north in the direction of Novomikhailivka, where here the Russian forces are attacking in this direction, as well as in the direction of Pobieda, Marinka, as well as to the north of Marinka, where they're trying to gain better positions to the north of the city, which would allow them to reach the river line. Then we move on to the Pervomaiska area, where here the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Nevelske, as well as the center of Pervomaiska, in the north of Pervomaiska, as well as in the direction of Severne, in the Avdiivka front, in the direction of Avdiivka itself in the western outskirts, to the northeast in the direction of Kamyanka, and to the north in the direction of Stepove, as they try to advance and encircle the city of Avdiivka. However, the Ukrainian defenders managed to hold back the Russian forces. And then to the north of Stepove, fighting also continues in the direction of Novokalinove, as well as Keramik, which are these two villages here to the north, by the intersection northeast of Avdiivka between Avdiivka and Konstantinivka. Before we move on to the Bakhmut front, make sure to leave a like on my video and subscribe if you want to help me out and see more of my content. If you're watching from your phone, you just have to exit full screen and click on the subscribe button. Thank you very much. Why am I asking this of you? Because as you can see here, 66.3% of my viewers from the last 28 days are not subscribed. And if we look at the very top, most of my viewers are returning viewers. That means you have watched my videos before, yet you are not subscribed. You watch my videos every day and you're not subscribed. It's one click of a button and it helps me out a lot. And thank you very much to everyone who's already subscribed. I really appreciate it. So I really liked taking a look at the topographic map here in Bakhmut, where the Russian forces are now advancing here to the southeast of the central area of the city. And as we can see, these are all uphill battles. They have recently captured this part here beyond the river line, which gives them the advantage of not having to cross a river to continue their fights. However, the Ukrainian positions here to the north are still as powerful as ever. Currently, the fighting is occurring in this sector here, which is on a lower elevation than the northwestern parts here to where the Ukrainian positions all oversee the current Russian fighting positions. So essentially what I'm saying is that the Ukrainian positions, especially here by the residential zone on the western outskirts of the city, have a great overview of the Russian positions, which gives them an advantage when it comes to their snipers and their artillery, as they have an easy time detecting Russian soldiers moving through the city. Of course, the Russians also have their own drones, which will even out the artillery and sniper detection skills. However, the issue here lies with the visibility of the individual soldier. An individual Ukrainian soldier on one of these high-rise buildings on the high ground will have a much easier time shooting at a Russian soldier fighting on the lower ground in these smaller houses in the central area of Bakhmut, which means that the Ukrainian forces still have an advantage when it comes to these areas, on top of being able to set up ambush points in these areas, which will allow the Ukrainian forces to essentially put out a huge output of offensive power whenever Russian forces advance into one of these ambush points. So this is exactly why fighting within cities or within residential/industrial zones is so costly for the attacker, because there are so many points that the defenders can just use to gain an advantage. Where the attackers in this situation, the Wagnerians, their general strategy is to use armored vehicles to push through Ukrainian positions within some of these villages, within some of these buildings. If we look at one of these buildings, for example this one, So what the Wagnerians would do is that they would advance towards it and then shoot a hole in the wall to create a new entrance. So why do they do that? That is to prevent any explosives devices set up by any of the entrances or any ambush points by the entrances. And then the Wagnerians clear out the building and push a hole on the opposite side of the building as they continue moving in other directions. So that is how they avoid ambush points within these smaller buildings. However, what if the Ukrainians have built up a large ambush point here on the western parts where there are multiple high-rise buildings in this residential zone? For example, setting up large numbers of forces within these buildings, so as soon as the Wagnerians come and arrive to shoot a hole in the wall, they just get ambushed by rocket fire on top of these buildings or on higher floors within the buildings, and they destroy the tank, after which they exit or shoot from the windows to ambush all of the Wagnerian soldiers. That is exactly the kind of tactics the Ukrainian forces are using within the city, which is why we're seeing so slow advances by the Wagner soldiers as well as the Russian soldiers, as they, instead of advancing and going building to building like the Americans did in all of their wars in industrial and residential zones, what the Wagnerians and the Russians are doing is shelling all of these areas to make sure there are no Ukrainian soldiers within them, which will allow them to then advance in that direction. Of course, it doesn't succeed every time, but neither does it for the Ukrainians, and the Russian soldiers having such heavy firepower allows them to just bombard most buildings. Then we move on to the Bakhmut front, where the Russian forces are here attacking in the direction of Ivanivske, here to the southeast of the village, as well as to the south of Bakhmut, where they are attacking by the rail lines here to the southwest, as well as by the residential area to the south of the city, and fighting continues by the Freedom Square here in the center of Bakhmut. And this has also now been confirmed by Deep State Map. Then we see fighting here to the north in the direction of the Azom Steel Plant Industrial Zone, as well as the surrounding areas. And fighting also continues in the direction of Khomove, which is to the west of Bakhmut, as the Russian forces try to cut off this road to the northwest of the city. Then we move on to the area between Bohdyanivka and Hryhorivka, where the Russian forces are here also advancing, trying to cut off the road between these two villages. As well as fighting continues between Hryhorivka and Oryhovo-Vasilivka, where the Russian forces are trying to flank Oryhovo-Vasilivka from two directions, both from the E40 highway here to the north of Oryhovo-Vasilivka and here to the south in between Hryhorivka and Oryhovo-Vasilivka. As for the village itself, the Russian forces continue fighting within the center of it. And to the northeast of these positions, fighting continues to the north of Selizhnyansk, as the Russian forces attempt to improve their position in this area. Moving further northwards in the direction of the Siversk front, fighting continues in the direction of Vyemka, as well as Verkhnokamiansk and Bilorivka, where the Ukrainian forces have managed to push back the Russian forces in Bilorivka and hold the front line on these other parts. Then we move on to the Kreminna front, where here the Russian forces are attacking in the Serbryansky forest area as they try to take control over this area, as well as to the west of Kreminna in the direction of Serishne, to the northwest in the direction of west of Chernopopivka towards Cherny and Nevske, as well as to the southwest of Ploshanka, and to the northwest of Plashenka in the direction of Makiivka. So in this area, the Russian forces are trying to reach the river line to gain better positions, and they're doing this by using active defense tactics. Then we move on to the final part of the update, where here the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Stelmahivka as well as Berestove. And that is all for this update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.